Hi, this is Brian. Welcome back to Philosopher's Notes TV. Today, yes, another great book, The Courage Quotient by Robert Biswas-Diener. The Courage Quotient, subtitle, How Science Can Make You Braver. So Robert Biswas-Diener is awesome. He's known as the Indiana Jones of positive psychology. He's traveled all around the world studying some amazing cultures to understand what we have in common, what might be unique, etc. The Indiana Jones of psychology. Isn't that awesome? He's a professor at a university on the West Coast. We featured another one of his books called Happiness, which he wrote with his father, Ed Diener, who is another one of the bright lights, luminaries of the psychology world. We're honored that Robert joined us as a guest faculty luminary in our Optimize Coach program, where he shared wisdom from this and some other of his books. Check that out. We've got the Philosopher's Note, as always, with a bunch of big ideas, 6-page PDF, 20-minute MP3, 600 of them now, along with a bunch of other stuff, optimize.me. If you want to go deeper with us, join a community of thousands, couple thousand people, nearly now, from over 70 countries around the world who have gone through our Optimize Coach program. Check that out at optimize.me/coach. So, the Courage Quotient. Courage is super important. In fact, Aristotle says, again, the summum bonum, the highest goal is eudaimonia, to have a good soul, to flourish. You do that by living with arete, or virtue, or excellence, right? But he says the number one virtue, to actualize our potential and to live with that virtue and high-five our inner daimons, is courage, right? Yet, it hasn't been scientifically studied much, which is why when I heard about this book, from another book that we'll reference soon, or do one of these episodes on soon, I immediately got it, loved it, and was excited to share the note and then this discussion. So, the Courage Quotient. Obviously, there's a quotient that Robert has come up with. Here it is. He basically tells us that courage, scientifically, can be defined as the willingness to act in the presence of fear. It's a powerful, simple statement. The willingness to act in the presence of fear. Now, it's not about getting rid of all of your fear per se. It's about knowing what to do and how to control your fear and then doing what needs to get done. We want to be at that virtuous mean of courage, not the vice of deficiency, where we're a coward, or the vice of excess, where we're rash. It's properly using fear. And these two variables make up willingness to act. That's our numerator. So if we have a quotient, every good quotient has a numerator and a denominator. The numerator is the willingness to act, and the denominator is fear. Now, basically, we need to cultivate our sense of agency, right, which is a science word for our confidence in ourselves so we can meet life's challenges, and we're willing to act in the presence of fear. Then we need to learn how to control our fear. Because if our fear is always getting the best of us, we're going to have a tough time. So then run it through the quotient to get your math on where you are courage-wise, right? And Robert gives some questions you can actually take, survey you can take in the book to get clarity on this. But basically, if you have a 10 out of 10 willingness to act, boom, that's pretty darn good. And you're really good at controlling your fear. You know how to use tools like I'm excited, bring it on, boom. This is going to make me better. My infinite potential exists on the other side of my comfort zone. You're alchemizing fear. You've controlled it. It's a 1 for you, not a 10. Your ratio here, your quotient is 10 to 1. That's awesome. You are a courageous human being. Boom, let's go. Now, if, on the other hand, you are unwilling to act in the presence of fear, you can't get yourself to do what needs to get done, right? You get overwhelmed by that, and your fear levels are very high, and you haven't practiced the skills. And again, we all feel fear. Anyone who says they don't feel fear, David Reynolds, the Zen therapist, says, is both stupid and lying. So it's not about not ever having fear, right? But it's about knowing how to alchemize it and deal with it and properly, wisely act in the presence of that fear. So if you're not willing to act and you have an overwhelming amount of fear, you're 1/10. Boom. We want to become more agent-driven, willing to act in the presence of fear that we've learned how to control. That's the courage quotient. I absolutely loved this idea. We talk about it a lot in our work together as we help our coaches and optimizers operationalize virtue throughout the process. Now, the second idea here is what Robert calls courage blindness. He kind of coined this phrase, is that he's saying that most of us are actually way more courageous currently than we give ourselves credit for. And I extend it in the note to virtue blindness. We're actually doing a lot of things pretty darn well that we may not be seeing properly. And it's super important that we celebrate the gains that we're making, right? So in this context, we want to see the idiosyncratic ways in which we're already expressing courage. He also talks about general courage versus specific courage. General courage is what we all recognize as courage, but it tends to be the person rushing into a fire to save a child, or a warrior going out and saving his buddy, or defending our peace, etc., right? Those are kind of traditional general ideas of courage. But then he says we have specific expressions of courage, because you have different issues than I have. And I got plenty of them. You've got plenty of them. We've all got plenty of them. And we need to demonstrate our own specific idiosyncratic versions of courage to meet our own challenges and to fight our own dragons, which is what the good hero's journey is, right? But we need to not be blind. Stated positively, we need to see all the times in our past when we have demonstrated courage. So we talk about this a lot as well. We have a session, a whole module in our mastery series called Heroology. I happen to be in a documentary called Finding Joe, featuring Joseph Campbell's wisdom with Deepak Chopra and Laird Hamilton and Robin Sharma, some great teachers. Finding Joe, the movie, check it out. Patrick Solomon, the director, put it up for free in its entirety on YouTube when COVID came to town. Super powerful movie. And what we do in our program is take it and operationalize it. So we talk a lot about seeing how you're already demonstrating courage. So one of the things we talk about is hero bars. You got to eat your hero bars. You got to see the 1 or 2 or 3 moments in your past when you crushed it, when you were courageous, when you executed at your highest level and did what you were afraid to do and were willing to act in the presence of fear. Think about it right now if you feel inspired, or when you have time for reflection. What are 3 things? I literally start my day every day saying, I'm a success, that's what I do. And I look at, boom, these are the 5 things I've done I'm most proud of. And every single one of them required me to go through obstacles, some significant pain, and to demonstrate courage. David Goggins, the great Navy SEAL, calls it his cookie jar. This is a guy who's achieved an extraordinary amount in his life, and he remembers to go to his cookie jar, those times in his life when he crushed it, when he's not feeling motivated and he's not feeling willing to act and fear is overwhelming him. He goes and eats his cookies, his hero bars, we would say. So what's on your, and then I'll go to another metaphor, highlight reel. We talked about this in It Takes What It Takes by Trevor Moawad. Super Bowl champion Russell Wilson is one of Trevor's clients. He literally created a highlight reel that Russell watches while he eats breakfast of champions. You got to see all the moments in your life when you crushed it, and not occasionally, every single day, day in and day out. The whole point here is you can't do these things occasionally. It needs to be a day in and day out practice such that we can get rid of our blindness. Then the third idea is a really cool one too. He says you need to play courageous roles. And he tells the story of a 9-year-old in China, and there's a huge earthquake around 2008. Right? And this 9-year-old boy rescued a bunch of the kids from his school. And I get goosebumps as I say that. 9 years old. And this little guy is cruising around saving his classmates. And he was asked, well, what made you do that? And he said, well, it was my job. I was the hall monitor. Gave me tears in my eyes. This 9-year-old kid was the hall monitor, and he played that courageous role well. He became a hero in China, and he led the opening ceremonies, part of it anyway, in the 2008 Olympics. We got to create roles for ourselves that are heroic, that are courageous, which again is what we talk about again and again and again. We just went off on it in our last PNTV. I went into detail in how to think like a Roman emperor on the identities that I've created for myself that we help others create energy, work, and love-wise. Who are you at your courageous best? I'm an athlete, I'm a philosopher, and I'm a soulmate with my family. Energy, work, and love. I'm going to play those roles as well as I possibly can today. Inspiring you, hopefully teaching you one thing today that can transform your life in a small or significant way, and then aggregate and compound it. Boom, that's the courageous role I've chosen to play. And again, the science is clear here. Ellen Langer can bring people into her lab. She's at Harvard, created something called the psychology of possibility. She simply dresses people up as Air Force pilots, then has them do an eye test and compares them to people who aren't dressed up. They aren't playing a role. Just putting on an Air Force pilot outfit will make your vision better. That's crazy. The roles create outcomes that are superior. Todd Herman talks about a similar thing in the alter ego effect. Do the same thing with kids, only this time have them pretend and dress up as Batman or Dora. They can pick. They will be more gritty, they will be more tenacious and persistent and going after their goals than if they weren't playing that role. So again, the question is, what's your role? Create some courageous roles for yourself. Move from victim to hero and say, boom, this is how I'm going to show up for my family, etc. The fourth idea is a super important one, which is failure. One of the things that gets in the way of living courageously is failure. Ruminating on our past failures, thinking something's wrong with us because we feel fear and have failed in the past. And Robert makes the unequivocal point that all the great teachers echo, that failure is essential. That's not a design flaw, it's not a bug, it's essential to the process. He quotes a friend of his who's, I think, an Oscar-winning documentarian director who says, look, I film hundreds and hundreds of hours of frames for a documentary, and only 1% max make it in to the final cut. Now, were all of those, so you got an hour and a half, and you had hundreds and hundreds of hours of film. Were those failures? Were those wasted efforts? This guy says no. I needed every single one of those frames to get where I am now. Well, same with you. Every single one of your failures, your mistakes, is how Michael Beckwith, the great spiritual teacher, tells us. It's like, to go back to the movie metaphor, imagine a director of a movie. Do they say action, and then in one take get to the end an hour and a half, 2 hours later and say, cut, boom, guys, you crushed it? No, every single scene is done again and again and again until it's done right. It's a mistake. No big deal. Do it again. I say this to Emerson and to our kids all the time. Oh, that was a mistake. Let's do it again. Retry. Let me do it a little bit better this time. When we embrace failure, we have the power to grow. We have the power to be willing to act in the presence of fear, and we can control our fear because we know we're going to fail. And we don't need to shame ourselves on it. We can approach it as neutral data, win or learn style, etc. In It Takes What It Takes, we also talked about, to hit the game-winning home run, you need to be willing to strike out in the same batter's box. To throw the game-winning TD, you got to be willing to throw the game-losing interception. Bliss, fiasco, as Joseph Campbell says. And again, to be a Hall of Fame, to make sure I throw 20 metaphors at you, to be a Hall of Fame baseball player, you bat 300. You fail 70% of the time. It is what it is. Embrace failure, learn to accept it, and then play to win. Final idea, fun one here. Robert talks about motivation theory and some research done on this subject. Imagine bringing people into a lab to play Scrabble. And you tell them, two different groups. One group has said, okay, you're going to get paid a base amount of money, and we'll pay you more if you crush it. The other group is told, hey, we're going to pay you a base amount of money, but we're going to take money away if you make mistakes and you fail. Boom. Watch them play Scrabble. Who do you think does better? The group that is playing to win. When you're incentivized to win and you're not afraid of losing, you perform at a higher level and you enjoy the process a heck of a lot more. So we want to orient our goals, and Robert tells us just how important it is to have meaningful goals. I'll draw our target one more time. What are you aiming your life force at? What's important to you right now? That's what's going to generate the courage to move through inevitable obstacles. You need to have a target. If you want to have hope, which is a virtue closely connected to courage, you have to have a future you're excited about. Literally, science says, and I will repeat this again and again and again, 3 parts to have hope. And we'll do one of these episodes on the psychology of hope. First, you need to have a target, a goal that you're excited about, a future you're moving toward. 2, you need to have what's called agency. Fun, we already wrote that down. 1, a target, a goal. 2, you believe you can hit the target. You have agency. And then 3, you're willing to take multiple shots, or they would call it pathways. You have a plan to get it, but you know that plan probably won't work, and you're willing to explore pathway after pathway after pathway. Wow. Playing to win, accepting failure, having courageous roles, not being blind to your virtues, seeing all the heroic things you've already done, and then mastering this courage quotient, being willing to act while controlling your fear, getting a solid, go to 11. Boom. Turn it up. All the way to 11. Let's go. That is the courage quotient. Again, thank you, Robert, for the great book and lifetime of effort, you and your family. And what'd you get out of this? What's the one idea that just landed? Let's pause for a moment and think about it. And then think about how you can move from theory to practice to mastery today. Because if we can truly operationalize this and aggregate and compound all those little gains over an extended period of time, we can create magic. Let's do it today. See you tomorrow. Hey guys, this is Bri. I hope you enjoyed that video. We have a lot of people ask us what Optimize is all about, so I just wanted to give you a super quick tour of our site, tell you what we do. We do 2 primary things. We have an Optimize core membership, and we have an Optimize coach certification program for people that want to go from theory to practice to mastery. So the core membership is basically $10 a month, depending on whether you do monthly or annual, and you get instant access to over 500 Philosopher's Notes, the 6-page PDF, 25-minute or so MP3 recordings of these great books. And then you get over 1,000 Optimize Plus ones, 50 Optimal Living 101 master classes, etc. And we have a free trial the team set up. Get it, free for 14 days, and then go from there if you like it. So we're blessed to have a lot of people who subscribe to this, including some of my friends who happen to be some world-class peak performance gurus like Tal Ben-Shahar, who taught 2 of the largest classes in Harvard's history, starts every day with Optimize. Ben Greenfield, friend and coach. Optimize is, bar none, my go-to source for taking a deep, efficient dive into some of the world's best books via the Philosopher's Notes. It's an indispensable resource. Thank you, Ben. Marcy Shimoff loves Philosopher's Notes. Mark Devine, retired U.S. Navy SEAL commander, dear friend, who starts his days with Optimize Plus One. Win in the mind routine to charge him up for the day's battle. If you're serious about leading heroically, I recommend you use them too. Hoo-yah, thank you. And 10,000 plus other awesome humans around the world. That's the core membership. Then we have, and I should say we have apps. Excuse me, you can get apps, iOS and Android. We feel pretty proud and blessed to have basically a 4.9 ranking and people saying some great things. You can check that at optimize.me/apps. And then our coach program is all about helping you master yourself so you can serve heroically, so you can empower others to do the same. We have trained over 1,000 Optimize coaches from over 50 countries. And really excited about this. This is one of the core levers for us to fulfill our mission to change the world one person at a time together, starting with you and us today. We've been told that, here's one little thought, and we have hundreds of testimonials you can check out about how it's transformed people's lives. And if you want to be a coach, you're coaching practice. Now, half of the people who do this want to be coaches. The other half just want to master their lives. But Barb, a coach of ours, says, I already had 2 coaching certifications, but Optimize Coach was indisputably the most valuable I have taken. Thank you, Barb. Honored to be part of your life. You can learn more about what we're doing with Optimize Coach at optimize.me/coach. There you go. Hope you're doing great. Look forward to sharing more with you soon. Have an awesome day. See ya.